All right. Welcome again. See if we got anybody showing up to. All right. Well, I'm going to start out today with just a little bit of bookkeeping. One thing that I want to deal with, I suppose people will see this on the recording. Is anyone around? Okay. So, the easiest thing to do is show this id. Ud. Ud is a comparative. Id. We do the id suffix. We'll look for de. Right. Okay, well, I can just, Hi, pasta. How are you doing? So, I'm kind of, well, I'll just start out. So, one thing that is I have been doing is since I have a sister language that I'm working on, which I'm, you know, that's going to be, I will be, I'm doing great. I'm just doing some conlang here. Since I've been making a sister language for this, I've been going through and making the calling it proto reptilian roots. And so I'm just making those links in um, in Obsidian in order to prepare for doing a little bit of lexicon work in Serpentine. Because, see, once you have a sister language, then you need to think more about where these words came from, because every word is a story. And I'm gonna go. That's something that I will probably update on Patreon from time to time. I'm gonna go through like word by word. I'm gonna develop Serpentine off stream and be going through word by word in order to get that sorted out. Anyway, I have one issue that has been sort of bothering me for a while, and I never like sorted it out when we originally did all of the phonology. And that is like, I end up with, no, I don't need to, it's not ide, not chide. So we want to go back to id, and we want to choose one of the derivatives, tagid, okay? I end up with a geminate kind of randomly. And the issue that I have with Geminits is it might be a little bit more confusing. It was a little bit outside of what I wanted. What outside of like the line to actually have outside of my language experience to have like these aspirated stops at the end of a word, because I mean technically I have experience from English. I have experience. It's just it's not outside of my experience, but outside of like what could theoretically be easy. But because like when they are always if they were always at the beginning of a syllable, then that's easy. You pronounce it the same as English and it's gonna come out fine. But when we have this contrast at the end of a word, there's different things that can happen in different languages. And I never really sorted that out. I kind of expect it to be similar to English and Korean, where the coda with these would become glottalized, um, which that works. But the thing is, like, also we end up with a geminate, and I kind of feel like people might like over voice this instead of tagidi, they might say tagidi. So tagidi, yeah. Logan, that's not a problem. You can have it on in the background if you want. It's just a thing. Uh, so and also just the fact that I have these, yeah. Korean phonology, I can see how Korean phonology confuses people, um, especially the way that it is presented. Because like the tense consonants are the 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 whole thing of aspirated, plain, and tense consonants. The tense is kind of a term of art that is actually describing something you could describe in other ways. It's one of those things where like people have a traditional interpretation of something. But anyway, when I have this Gemini pop up, I feel like there are. This is very marginal. This is only going to happen because of morphology. If I look at my Lexifer definitions here, if I look at that, um, like this is how this is our this is this is code the two different kinds of codas, right? But we never get a coda. We I believe I set it up so that we are never going to end up with um, a word internal geminate, or even like these two stops in a row without um, without some kind of morphology being involved. And that's fine. We can have stuff like that. That's totally cool. But like the addition of like this being actually a plane, so it needs to be pronounced tagiti, rather than tagidi, and people might tagidi, and people might get that a little bit off. You also have tagidbe, the iddi, itti, itbe. Um, I'm not 100% sure that I want this to happen. And I kind of feel like I want to sort that out before I move on to like lots of translations and writing and stuff so that I know whether this is going to be an issue. I did the other thing is I realized that I do end up with um, rarely two vowels next to each other, but I decided not to do anything with that. I decided to just go with no diphthongs in this language, and so this is two syllables actually. Maybe I should annotate syllables in my things. Boo, 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 boo. Just you know, just let the hiatus stay there, and then if I do daughter languages in the future, then it can be different. If I do further development of Serpentine, if I could take that in a different direction in Serpentine too. Though I think it's still going to be pretty close in that respect. It's changing a lot more in some other regions. So that's where I'm at here. Um, it's just a little revision thing that I'm thinking about. Other things in here, I'm pretty happy with the morphology. I kind of need um, to like clean up some of my notes here. Um, Probably can just get rid of this bulleted list because I have all the information here. And We'll eventually be working on the actual grammar document. Should I probably I'm also getting the idea that I should not present the verb charts this way. I should just do a verb template because that's basically what we have. Because we've got what it is basically is we have what we have subject, and then um, directional slash am. Then we have the root. Then we've got the optional patient object. And the optional aspect mood marker. So it's a fairly simple verb template and then I can probably just sort that out. That's probably a better representation. In the dictionary, it is helpful because if I can find a verb. Well, can I find a verb? Yeah. It's helpful because I can just go through here. This particular dragon language, I did not include any alien grammar features. The main thing that I did for this in order to aim for like dragon stuff was in the phonology. Um, we this was like the first vote. We decided that they cannot do rounded vowels. They can do labial uh, stops, which is kind of reasonable. You don't need as much flexibility to do a p p p p p p than you do to have w w oo so they can do labial stops and fricatives, but they cannot do rounded vowels. And so that's the origin of this vowel chart. But other than that, it's mostly it's going to be the metaphors and the lexicon that is going to make it more about uh, sort of the dragon's point of view. I'm not really. There are future situations where I may end up fitting things into the grammar. We can talk about that um, when we get to like stuff like Sylvan probably would have a very strict politeness system, just because like Fae and hierarchy and like strange hierarchy kind of fits with that mindset. But for dragons, I didn't have anything particularly grammatical. It's all in sort of thinking of things from the dragon's point of view. Um, and You can see this in some of my Lexember entries. Like I spent some time on like organs, and I decided like the word for lung should be buff. Buff is also the source for buff, the spongy or foamy, right? Because they're familiar with that texture. They eat lungs. They understand their texture. And there's also things like, okay, these flying animals probably will deal a lot with, may have some weather related emotional metaphors. Happy, content is under the sun. Is that apa? Apa, yeah. And that's in the layer. Um, uh, this is under a storm cloud for anxiety, right? That's great, Rune. Well, we are doing a conlang stream. I'm kind of doing a little bit of like cleanup work and getting some interesting uh, getting some stuff here. So now that we've got some people on, I kind of want to go back to what I was talking about in the first place. Is I have this thing that's popping up for me in that we have this geminate, this marginal geminate coming up that just happens because of did Artifact Scene just do a post? Because I see my viewers suddenly jump up. um, so we have this marginal geminate pop up, and like we don't have geminates happen any other place than with some kind of morphology. Yeah. Um, and so we're going to. Um, Here's what I'm going to consider. Do we want to use? Yeah, let's work with Uchid as our Uchid Uchid as our example. So, what happens when we have this? I can pull up different things. So One option is just to leave it alone. So let's call that option A. We just have random geminates pop up. That's fine. Option B will be the geminate itself simplifies. Just this geminate simplifies. Let's see. Let's go through all the options, and I can decide on how to eliminate things. Another one would be delete first consonant. So here, what we have is, like here we're simplifying just the geminate. Here what we would do is simplify both of these clusters. So instead of uchitbe, we'd end up with uchibe. 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 Yeah. Right? And then we could also delete the second consonant. And with that, we'd have, well, no, we want to go from here. So we delete the second consonant. And then we have uchidi, uchide instead of uchidi, uchibe. Right? Here, what we're doing is we're preserving the consonant from the suffix. Here, we're preserving the the final of the stem. Okay. There's another one that we could do is we could have an epenthetic vowel, and that's I'd have to decide how epenthesis, yeah, an epenthetic vowel. If we grab the original here, and what would that vowel have to be? We'd have to decide what that vowel is going to be. So I mean, and that would harmonize. Uchidudi. I think I'm going to eliminate this option because the thing is, this is going to end up making words longer, and I don't want to keep making, I don't want to do too much to make words longer. I think I prefer to have a deletion than an addition here. And so, okay. So people can see all of the options. So why don't I'm just going to do this as a quick stream vote, and we're going to go with the option that people choose. So which option do we choose to resolve the geminates? And so we've got A, we'll just, okay, we'll just copy paste from there. A, leave it alone. B, the geminate simplifies. C, delete the first consonant. This probably, these would be like consistent across the whole paradigm. Whereas this one, it's just targeting this while leaving this in place. It's interesting, but, or delete second consonant. We'll just get that sorted out. Well, thanks to Artifexian for sending over his people. It's always fun to have that happen. I don't think he's in a different time zone than me, so he's probably not going to show up himself. Okay. And while that is going on, I will also pull up. I can get it from here. So last time I showed you guys, I had the poll up for the next language in this series. And so far, Sylvan is winning. But you know, if you go and pledge to the Patreon, you can go and have there's plenty of room for you to have your say and have an effect on which of these languages gets chosen next. It's going to be Celestial, Infernal, Abyssal, or Sylvan. Currently, Sylvan is winning, but you know, maybe if you prefer Infernal or Celestial, you want to come up here. And then I have a brand new poll up on the Patreon talking about. We talked a little bit about my plans for a writing system. So the writing system will be written using claws. And you know, claw marks on stone. And I have two different styles to go. One is more of a cuneiform inspired style, and I sort of translate these pictures into sort of a similar thing to, if you look at cuneiform, you can see how like these things, some of the, like the cuneiform, of course, was reeds pressed into clay, and you can see sort of like they tend to be like certain angles, um, certain kinds of strokes involved. For my own purposes, I decided that this style would have no lines actually touching. Um, everything's everything's negotiable, of course, but I think it works for this style if the lines do not touch. Whereas this style is loosely based on Ogham, but I am not taking. So the thing about Ogham is like it was devised after they encountered writing before, right? And um uh and didn't go through the same process as other writing systems of going from a picture to a different like kind of system. In my case, I'm taking the aesthetic of Ogham with the central line, and everything has to touch the central line. Um, that's what I'm going to do, but they are derived from these pictograms, and this is just me like freehand drawing pictures of stuff. Um, a couple things that um, Um, so like this hage probably will be the symbol for kaga for ka, be, be for ba, ch, for ch, right? These forms are not final. This is just to give an example of what it would look like. Well, I mean, so this is so I'm specifically doing a language for like the chromatic and metallic dragons in Dungeons and Dragons. So the thing about using a breath weapon using fire is that not all of them breathe fire, and like some of them breathe like cold or like poison gas or something. So it's not always true that they'd be able to use their breath weapon to write with. But all of them do have claws, and I can assume that they have supernaturally sharp claws so that they can scratch stuff into stone and not have any problems with that. So that's that's my idea. Um, but these are the two like broad aesthetics that I will use, and these letter forms, these glyph forms, are not necessarily going to be the final ones, but they will. They are sort of the general style that I would go for. I'm definitely, when I am actually into making a font, I'm gonna make a nice like scratch mark that has some noise to it, so it looks more like a natural scratch mark and stuff. But that's where I'm going. Um, anyway, please excuse my poor drawings, but you don't have to be an excellent artist in order to make a writing system. You don't have to draw super detailed drawings. You look at like actual real world if you actually look at real world development of writing systems, I mean, these drawings are pretty simple mostly, right? They're a little bit better than what I drew, but they're not insanely detailed. Okay, so we have our vote. We still have some people out. Go ahead and get your voice heard. I'm gonna leave it for another minute. But anyway, we've got this, and this one is going to be up until whenever I decide to actually start the writing system, which I don't know if I'm going to do it next week or the week after that. Next week I might like do an extra like lexicon building thing, like maybe um if Logan is able to give me like the chart for the color terms, then we could do color terms cuz that can be relevant, or something else. So it could be like 2 weeks from now that I actually start doing the writing system. Um, well, writing with their tails would be interesting. If they could like dip it into ink and stuff. Keep in mind that so all of the metallic dragons can take humanoid form, so they can write in whatever method like humans use too. But I just felt like the claws would be the simplest and easiest thing to deal with. And then this one is going to be up until I start the next season and actually am doing these these one of these languages. So you have plenty of time to get in here and make your voice heard there. All right. Okay, so I think people have. We'll end the poll here. Just a few of you are voting, so let's go ahead and make this. And then we have. Why did Obsidian randomly close? So you guys have decided that what we do is we just simplify the gem bit, but this cluster remains. So that's fine. We can go with that, and I will write that into my sound changes, and that will inform how the rest of the lexicon works out. Okay, so what else? So going through here, So one thing that I need to do is kind of go through and rectify a bunch of charts. I have decided this was originally Chagi, but I went with Chag after deciding the origin of that is a verb that still exists. Chagi, to surpass or exceed, just to differentiate those a little bit. Um, and we have we have some verbs that were made earlier that have an earlier version of the chart that maybe like this one that I may need to actually fix according to the newer sound changes and the new romanization. So that's something that I need to uh, be working on. So I'll just fix that one real quick. And we can grab this. This is important stuff. I'm not going to spend all a lot of time on this on stream, but I think it's important to I need to make sure that I'm loading the correct sound changes. And Jesse and David have a drop down of the different languages here. I don't know how that works. So, and there you can see this is how I do things without tearing my hair out. Is I have just a bunch of Excel stuff, and we're just going to be dealing with that. And I can easily copy and paste stuff. Ah, did I grab the whole table? Okay, I'm going to have to just copy this whole table. There we go. Yeah. So, all right, here's what we have then. We've got, so let's go through. It seems like we have some newer people on. So I'm going to actually go through, let's go through what we've got. So there's some world building relevant information here. I will I need the color terms because I need to decide whether I want to use colors to name the dragons or not. They might appear different colors to dragons than they do to humans, so that's something to be considering. Um, but here's the general phonology. These are red is deleted from Proto-Draconic and then or Proto-Reptilian, and these are added in. Basically, all the palatalized coronals all became just postalveolars or palatals. Let's just call this all palatal, even though these are technically postalveolar. And and then all of the palatalization got nixed. We have the vowels. This shifted to this, and this shifted to this, and we have vowel harmony in this language, which ended up weird because of the weirdness of the original setup. So like this was paired with this, but actually it's paired with this now. A schwa and a and then and Um, there you go. You have tense and lax vowels, which I think someone suggested soft and hard for terms for these. Um, we can come up with other ideas for what to call the two categories of vowels. Um, and then we have so nouns are tripartite in alignment, and you can see the I believe this is all up to date on things. The pronouns are nominative accusative though. So it's like originally the language was nominative accusative and then it became tripartite. It gained an ergative case is the main thing. It gained this ergative case. And the ergative case is like an instrument, originally an instrumental. And then we have two aspects and one mood, which has the weird quirk that it has to have a modal with it. So eng is for can or may or might. Ik is for should or must. And then adding ye is like an optative. Okay. And then you can also use these modals with the perfective to get a different color of meaning. It's always interesting to have that. And then verbs agree with subject and object. We have active and passive participles. This is fa. So this is originally. This is something that I need to. So this is something I need to be clear about. So if it was a schwa originally, then it actually alternates between fa and fu. So welcome to my proofreading section. I mean, head marking is broader than just verb inflection, but you can say that this language has a mix, has both head marking and dependent marking because it depends on. So head marking means that whatever category is marked on the head of a phrase, and that means okay, the verb is the head of the verb phrase. You're talking about like the arguments of the verb are marked on the verb. That's taken care of here. But the arguments of the verb are also marked on the nouns, which is that's dependent marking. It all depends on like what level of phrase you're talking about, because like in a noun phrase, you could have a difference between head marking and dependent marking there too. Like maybe you have number or case only marked on adjectives, and that's a dependent marking versus a head marking where it's marked on the noun itself. It's a relative thing, but we have that. we have come up with we have a set of directionals or associated motion markers. So you can like um, we have go, come, rise, and descend. Um, uh, uh, and you know what? Let's move back here. Let's call these hard and soft. Let's say that's what the dragons would call them. Because technically it's a ATR harmony, but because of the weird vowel shift, this is not just an ATR distinction. There, yeah, yeah. It's it's complex. So let's just keep rising. There's a base 8 numeral system because I looked at official art and it seems like the dragon talons in official art generally have talons that are in a four claws that are in a convenient place to count. So that works out to give you an octal numeral system. We have adjectives. We actually have a comparative. We have two different comparatives on adjectives. Plus, we have this for derived and borrowed adjectives. Take this chagi. Um, More. Um, and at there we go. This is chag now. So it's not chagi bafke is bafke. It's chag bafke. Buff, buffke. 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 Chag bafke. This the challenge in pronouncing this language. Because there's nothing really difficult for an English speaker to pronounce in this language, in terms of sounds. The challenge is I have to deal with stress schwas and just like vowels that are in strange places because of the vowel harmony. Um, and that's cool. Okay, we decided that there was this is this is not the citation form of this. This is on. So there's two copulas. An is for states. It is not actually for locations like estar is. I just put estar instead as shorthand. It's for states, and it is we go to on. It is the only verb I have so far that's suppletive, and it is suppletive in the aspects because all of these actually come from verbs that relate to motion. Igab is for to circle. So I put that in the irrealis because it's something sort of like expected but not realized, huh? And then echa, you have edi is to stand, and then the default on, wait, let me see, andi is to lie down. The default and the nomic is from to lie down. This is from circle, and this is from stand. So far, that's the only one that I have any suppletion going on. If there are others that make sense to do suppletion, I can think about it. So we have that sorted out, and then we've worked out how to do negatives. That ended up being super weird because it's a clitic that has to have a host before the verb. That was a process. Questions are only done with intonation, and I have not figured out what question intonation is going to be. That's something I'll have to figure out. Is this yeah. Is this and then we figured out how relative clauses work. It's an internally headed relative clause. So the the relativized noun occurs inside the relative clause. This is the relative clause. So I saw a dragon who eats humanoids. This is dragon who eats humanoids, generally. Um, this is gnomic. It's kind of being used as a habitual. Maybe I can have that as a second use of that. And there's a resumptive pronoun. Ubet, ubes, that's the third person accusative pronoun. With the agu, so yeah. Or I slash the dragon that eats humanoids. Again, with this accusative pronoun modified by this basically whole sentence. And then we worked out subordinate clauses. They're just going to kind of go where they go for their role in the sentence. And we have the ooh, okay. Exhale, and go deep. That's an idea. Like maybe a downward contour along with like breathiness. That's an idea we could do with. That's an idea we could work with. So this is where we're at right now with this language. And we've got currently in my dictionary, I've got 156 items. I want to have a lot more than that before I start doing the incantations. And we are going to be deciding how to do the writing. So, for today, I think since I have sorted out that one issue, how about we do a translation exercise? And we're just going to do a standard translation. Okay. Let's go ahead and and we have a whole way of roaring, and I am going to be doing the video on that. I have not done it yet. You can check out when I brought Logan on to do that. I originally just modified I originally just changed the pitch on a lion roar, but since then I've learned how to use a synth, and so that's going to be our dragon roar sound. That's going to be in there. Maybe I should. It doesn't work. It doesn't hold up as well if you hold it down for long, but it's not supposed to be held down for very long. So you can look forward to that in the future. Let's see. So translation tests, and this should be a heading one. Yeah. So you guys know this. If you're into conlanging, you know this text. But it feels like it's reasonably appropriate for culturally for what I'm going for, and it will be useful to get at some of the constructions that are in here and some of the words that I need. So, make sure I'm copy and pasting correctly. Oh, I don't want, I just want the text. Oh, and it's all in individual sentences. So, let's do this. Translation exercises are really great for developing a conlang if you're a beginner, because they just they help you. There's gonna be a little bit of cultural translation I'll have to do here because of the way that I imagine. That's lovely that it thinks this is wrong when this is just something I copy pasted. So the north wind and the sun. So the first thing you want to do is, so number one thing, it's good to have some grammar figured out before you start doing translation exercises, because obviously you want to not be like in danger of relexing everything. And if you've done your job right, translation should be hard. If you have made, unless you are deliberately making a cipher or a relax, in that case, then easy translations are good. But generally, when you're conlanging, and if you are not trying to make anything that's like very much like your native language, then translation should be difficult. It should take some time. Now, one thing, so let's look at it sentence by sentence. The north wind and the sun were disputing which was the stronger, when a traveler came along wrapped in a warm cloak. So, Topher, well, we made a little decision earlier on these like marginal geminates that were coming up, and now we're translating the north wind and the sun. So it's really useful for figuring out grammatical structures and figuring out. So what do we have here? So broad sentence level things. This is pretty complex. We've got a temporal clause here. And the north wind and the sun were disputing, and there's a subordinate clause, which was the stronger. You know. So there's like three clauses in this first sentence. And then we have two like quasi proper names that we have to think about. Now, I think the first thing I want to do is figure out what to do for the north wind of the sun. First of all, the dragons do not have a word for north. What they have, this is the one place where I started deviating from like trying to make this generic and applicable to everybody's world, and then actually making world building decisions that deviate from like what's in Dungeons and Dragons is dragons. This version of dragons all have magnetoreception, and the particular kind of magnetoselection they have, as far as I understand it, does not tell them which pole is which. It just tells them the direction of the magnetic field lines. It just tells them that where the magnetic field lines are. So I'm getting that from like just understanding like in bird research there are birds that they have tested that they have magnetoreception and it can be disrupted, but they won't detect a field reversal. So because of that, and also because like dragons are sort of tied to their territory, you could they could have like a if they had to distinguish, they could do something like that. Pole to the left of the sun, pole to the right of the sun. I haven't decided whether they're going to focus on like wind direction or sunrise and sunset, but that's possible. That's an interesting idea. Normally, though, they're not going to distinguish. They're just going to use this word nkre, nkre. So, so we want the word for cray, and then do I have a word for wind? No, I don't. So we need to make a word for wind. And how do we do that? Well, different conlangers, you've encountered conlangers that just like make up words on the spot. I like to do random generation. I'm going to generate 5 words. And from Lexifer, which is online, it's William Annis's word generator. I like it. All of these are probably serviceable. Let's pull them into Lexergy and do the sound changes to see what they look like in modern Ndăkaga. Start making words at the same time. Yeah, we can sort of like be working together. That's fine. So let's apply that. So Abba up. Well, this is okay. I need to fix my issue. Sometimes I forget the weird workarounds I've done in Lexergy. So, Abba, Abba, it's not Abba, it's Abba, Upi, Ifa, Epi, Upruf, Upruf. The sun is a dragon's egg. Oh my, that would be cool. Yeah, I've actually already made a word for sun, though. I haven't made a word for moon, so you could do something like that. I kind of avoid like being specific about geography or mythology because I want GMs to be able to take this language and use it in their own setting. The idea was that. Yeah. The idea originally was that I'm making this with the ideas of dragons in mind, but this is the Draconic language in D&D that like wizards and sorcerers usually know. So I'm using this and I'm going to make incantations in this language for the spells, the arcane spells that have verbal components. So this is the language of magic, of that particular kind of magic. And all of the languages that I'm working on in tongues and runes are those languages, languages that like a particular class would use for spellcasting. Um, uh, and so I'm kind of not going with deep world building too much. In fact, like this was a thing that like I decided that I would have dragons have magnetoreception and have this word for a magnetic pole. That was actually also to avoid having a way a more like geographically specific way of identifying what's the North Pole. Uh, okay, so all of these I don't like uproof. I think it's too complex for something like wind. I think we're not going to do a vote now. I think Ifa because it's got the f sound. Epi also would work. Ifa really it's imitative of wind. Ifa. ABBA doesn't have that. Upi could work or Epi, but Ifa is actually hitting me really well. So I think I'm going to actually just go with Ifa. Democracy is gone. No, hey, I always reserve the right to just make a decision. um, I always reserve the right to just make a decision. This is not. This is a democracy until I feel it's inconvenient. So we're going to get the paradigm for IFA, and we don't have to go through and do our degemination thing because that's not going to happen here. And we come back and we add the word IFA, and etymology is wait. Okay, I messed up there. Hold on. Okay. Let me. Okay. I need to know what the actual source of it was. Yeah. And then load my Ndăkaga. That's actually you could use that for a lot of good songs about more serious topics. You can use that if you want. Ifa. So Ifa D. It's still the same, but I just want to make sure that I know things. Control Z. So that's the etymology. Yeah. Yeah. And then let's make sure that these files are going in the right place, since I have multiple folders now. Yeah, Ifa should go into Ndăkaga. And I think all of these up, this is a serpentine word. And then this is going to be proto-reptilian. Anything in straight IPA is going to be proto-reptilian. Okay, So let's go back to Ifa. Um, Ifa, and it's a noun. And for now, we can just say it means wind. I will be interested in what other meanings it could take on, because for a flying creature, there's a lot of metaphorical potential for wind. It's what carries them. It's what they go by. It can be good or bad. It can go up and down, all those things. And then Control V. I already decided that they don't refer to it as a breath attack. They refer to it as a spitting or a vomiting attack. So which works, because like some of them spit acid. That doesn't really that doesn't really make sense as like breathing that. Okay, so Ifa. So, and then from, yeah. And so the north wind, so Nkre Agu Ifa If. So this is the pole, and this is from, so from the pole, wind, and then if is the definite article. So Nkre Agu Ifa If. I didn't realize that I was doing that when I got that, but that's fine. We can deal with this. And sun is apa. Yeah, so if, and then and we decided and ante, anti, and I just need the word for and. Nyade, nyade. Okay. Okay. Nyade. No, that's not capitalized. Nyade. Apa if. Nkre ago ifa if. Nyade apa if. And then we're disputing. We're disputing which was stronger. So. Yeah, well, let me do another plug for this Obsidian. It's the best dictionary app I have had, because it's literally, it's just a personal wiki app, right? Yeah. So the hot and cold metaphors, um, that's something I have to think about carefully. Yes, not for frost dragons. So the white dragons have all kinds of adaptations for living in the snow, right? So I think it's going to be, it's going to be dependent. I did EP Faga. So I did do a under fire means being under fire means being angry, right? And then I did a little riff on that, in that it's also the red dragon. There's a derogatory term for red dragon Ipifaga, which is sort of saying, okay, they are a dragon that is under fire, which is bringing in their association with fire because fire is their breath weapon, and also implying that they're like hotheads and ready to fight you, very angry creatures. Term, it's kind of pulling out negative aspects of their supposed personality. Am I still there? Yeah. So that is an idea. I had an idea that what I am building right now is like root Draconic, but there should be metallic and chromatic dialects, and possibly dialects for each of the different types of dragons, because they are very different. They live in different environments, and they have different abilities. Like this is, I made up this chart with the SRD stuff, and it's like some of them can burrow. Some of them have a burrow speed, which is just wild. That something has wings and can fly, and also can burrow under the ground rapidly. Oh, chicken. That must be a Pathfinder thing. I'm going by the D&D fifth edition SRD, um, which funnily enough, because I'm making this branch serpentine for like sea serpents and things that is of related language. I checked it, and they don't have any sea serpents in the SRD for any edition. So I just like, I guess I just have to make my own version of a sea serpent stat block if I want to do anything with that language, like in publication. Uh this that's just funny to me that here are the like iconic dragons of D&D in our free open gaming license document. But you have to pay extra for this like pirate themed book if you want to have sea serpents. Um and so okay, so they were disputing. So this is where we're going to have to deal with sentence structure is going to be difficult to deal with because I don't know what it was in the original Greek. I'm just going off of the English and translating that into Draconic. But like we have this structure here in the English where we have a main clause and then a main clause and then a subordinate clause in the object position. And the thing is, the object is before the verb in Ndăkaga. Battles of the sea dragons and the chicken dragons. Oh gosh. I should look up the Pathfinder chicken dragon and make a chicken dragon language. I have had the idea also of having like branch daughter languages for kobolds and um, lizard folk and dragonborn. You know, all the races that supposedly speak Draconic according to the books. And you can just give them languages, maybe several languages for each one. Um, that's an idea, and also do like serpentine branch also for like Naga. Um, but anyway, that's that's beyond the scope of the streams themselves. Let's see. Nkre agu ifa nyade api if. So how do I need to put this? So the thing is, like, it flows really well when you have this disputing which was a stronger. If we refer to our subordinate clauses, though, like I have subordinate clauses preceding the matrix verb because that's just where it's going to end up. Um, so let's try it out that way. Um, and if it doesn't flow right, then we could just completely restructure the sentence. So, which was the stronger? So we probably want to have like who as the subject of that. G G does G have like forms? Oh, I never actually made any forms for that. No, I don't have the verb dispute or argue or anything like that, but we can do that. Um, G and then strong. Okay, how about this? I want to actually restructure this. Um, we're not going to have the north and the sun. We're going to have. So I never actually built the comparative construction, right? Okay, I have afik nubeo Ndăkaga ngichinge. Okay, so yes. So what we have is the nubeo Ndăkaga. That's just the that's I misspelled that. Ndăkaga. Okay, that's why I was confused. Afig is the verb. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. That's interesting, Topher. I didn't know that there was any nuance at all to Skyrim. The Skyrim dragon language. I thought it was just purely a relax, but that's that's interesting. No separate word for talk and argue. I'm not sure if I would go with that, but we could have like a fighting metaphor or something. Um, we'll come to that in a minute. I need to work out how I'm going to structure this sentence here. So, um, so we need to have strong. Um, strength. I have strength. Yeah, I have power, strength, ability. Do I not have strong? So this is from Enchad. Enchad. So Enchad. Yeah. that is something to think about because I know that they didn't do a proper conlang for that. So this this root works very well. I'm thinking that. Oh, and I can go ahead and change my thing. So that's another one. I'm thinking that I'm going to retcon this word instead of having this be. Unless we have. Do we have a powerful able? Yeah, we don't have anything. So Anghat is what we're doing with. I think instead of deriving an adjective from this, I'm going to say that Eng was the adjective form, and it has a suffix at some point. Eng adjective, and it came from yeah, etymology. Eng. I don't know how many other conlangers do this, but I like to yeah. Oh, word spitting. I like that. I like that. I have to think about what word I will use. Though let me sort this out here. So we've got ink, and that is going to be an adjective. An adjective, and the pronunciation did not change, so it's just like this. Strong, powerful, capable. And then the comparative of this, I'm going to have to go back to my notes and look at. So this is, I'd say strength is an inherent property. So it has egg, the egg comparative. So engeg. Engeg. So now we can do this. So here's what I'm going with is engeg, and it's just going to be the same. Comparative. Okay, no, it's gonna be a chuggy, chuggy. It's gonna be, they're both, yeah. Chug, yeah. Uchagabe. It's going to be if Uchagabe, and then Buji Eng. Right. So it's coming out more like the the wind from the pole and the sun. Um, whether whether the wind from um, the pole or the sun is stronger, and then they disputed. So let's I think this spitting words idea is cool. Up here, up here, and then if we go with what is the so the word is not going to work because that also means it also means item or object, but we could go with speech. I'm not going to go with ugif. Ugif. I think spitting speech, spitting talk. Kaga is not going to work well. Kaga is voice, but I don't think spitting voice is what I'm going to do. I think ugif is probably the best. I think we need to have. We need to do a post position here. Post P. We need to decide. So we've got Agi is away from. So so the object here is I think it is a topic. I think kit is probably the one that we want to use. Kit. And then we need to go back. Ugif. We need the accusative form. So ugif be. Ugif be. And up so this is going to be third person plural. The third person plural with a third person singular object. So ngapabe. Ngapabe. Group each other by what they eat. How is that going to work? I kind of thinking that they're all obligative carnivores anyway. Heat. So in my thing, it means above or over. I don't know. So yeah, I think arguing over a subject. I don't know. It's kind of similar to a lot of languages I'm familiar with, but I'm not sure if it necessarily is what we could do. I think it works though. So enkeg nkre ag ifa if what did I do? Ifa if nyade and it's not nyade, is it? It's gonna be. Look at the comparative construction. Actually, no, I didn't do any kind of coordination or anything here. I think I need to have an or, which I don't have a word for or. So, and is not going to work here. It should be a word for or. So let's make a word for or. Let's go ahead and look at let's go ahead and make the word for or. I want something that's one syllable. This is gonna be weird. Ta. Let's okay. We've got ta and we've got da and we've got pe. I'm not certain about the. Let's misclicking, misclicking because I am bad at computer. And bra, bra. Oh my goodness. The jokes that will come from bra. But it's a possibility. Okay, that's enough. I think. Okay, I'm going to eliminate. Yeah, I'm going to eliminate this because we also have a postposition that's da, so that's going to be confusing. So, do we have a pe? I don't think we have anything that's pe. So, so let's go with these three for the poll, and we will start a poll. What is the word for or? And we've got pe, bra, or da. And that's, you know, that's going to be useful to have a basic conjunction after so many weeks of working on this language. Yeah, well, I mean, so it's an interesting thought. One thing I have is I'm contending with is dealing with this being for Dungeons and Dragons or for Pathfinder. You have these pre-existing categories that I'm working with the the metallic and chromatic dragons, and those are named according to their color in English. You've got red, black, white, blue, and green, and then bronze, gold, silver, um, brass, I think, and copper. Um, yeah, humanoid eaters. That would be some kind of evil one. So the thing is, like, I'm thinking, I have to think about how dragons would name those different categories because they are like clearly physically different. They have different magic they have different abilities. They have different breath weapons. All of those things. So they have to be distinguished. But like we got into conversations about can the dragons see the same colors as humans and all of these things. I think maybe next week we will go over color terms and we'll get a the one thing I need to decide about is like most so if we like bring science into it a little bit, uh most reptiles and birds are tetrachromats, which means they perceive color wildly differently than humans do. They can see into ultraviolet, but also it completely changes the kinds of like color categories that are even possible. And so if I decide that dragons are also tetrachromats, which I mean, I already decided they have magnetoreception, so that's not an unprecedented decision for me to make, then that like completely changes how they perceive color, and I don't know if it will map neatly onto human perceptions of color. Oh, that's fine. It there's no problem with people giving me ideas. I will choose to accept or reject whatever. Um, I mean, are they reptiles in D&D? Does it matter? Like, does it do those categories even matter to D&D? Cuz like I think dragonborn are defined as humanoids, but they're not very human except for their shape. It's like they have a totally different set of categories, but we can have lots of discussions. We got some votes out. Come on, let's have some votes. Let's see. Okay, so we got 5 votes in, and 6 people watching. Okay, it's not going to matter. So, okay, I guess you guys like pay. I did not expect that one to be the one to win, but pay it is. And we will go and let me. It's easy to record a conjunction because there's no forms or anything. Let's go. Pay. And the source is just pay. Yeah. Oh, we had a discussion. If you want to go back to last week's stream, I think we had a whole big discussion about color perception and also how, like, to translate the abilities that are given on the stat blocks into the sensory abilities of the on the stat blocks into something that makes any sense. Because, like, I expect dragons to have a very good color vision because that would be useful for an aerial predator. So that's one thing in favor of going with tetrachromats. Because like we know the only aerial predators we know of in the real world, the birds, are tetrachromats. And it's probably useful to have more color discrimination in order to see things against the background. Um, but then again, like, mammals are weird for only being trichromats. Most other animals are tetrachromats, and then a lot of mammals also became just dichromats, uh, which is wild. But maybe it has to do with early mammals being largely burrowing or something like that. So it's going to be pe. And we're going to have, this is a conjunction. That means or. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But a lot of insects are trichromat or tetrachromat. And I don't know. Bees are trichromats, but they have a different color space than we do because one of their cones goes into infrared into ultraviolet. Um, the pronunciation I need to have here. Pe. It's just pe. Okay, so there we go. So pe. Yeah. And I'll put that into the example for the comparative construction. We have to have an or there. Um, um, yeah, so Enkeg nkre ifa ifpe apa if uch uchakabuji uchakabuji eng kit ugifbe ngapabe. So the the whether the north wind or the sun exceeds in strength. Uh, over, so over whether the north wind or the sun exceeds in strength, they were spitting. They were spitting talk. Okay. Yeah. So, what books do you recommend for learning typology? Oh, I mean, there's a lot of things to go with. Do I have? I mean, the old standby has was it is describing morphosyntax, and I had a copy of that a long time ago. I've learned a lot just by like reading papers and such, and I have a PhD, so I went to linguistics. So um, basic linguistic theory books I have heard are pretty good. Um, the thing about when you say learning typology, typology is a big subject. So like one book is not going to do it. You need to like start getting into the linguistics literature eventually and going stuff. So get yourself a good intro text to linguistics, and maybe also beyond that get into to like stuff like the basic linguistic theory or the describing morphosyntax that have like broader base, and then go start looking for the particular kinds of features that you want to look at. Uh, there's good overview books on different things, like say you want to do a tonal language. Well, um, this book will give you a lot of information on different kinds of tonal languages. Uh, if you want a gender system, you go to Greville Corvett's book on gender. If you want to do um, cases, you find a book on grammatical case. If you want to do number, find a book on grammatical number. So get yourself first some intro text to learn the vocabulary of linguistics, and then you can go into different books and papers on specific subjects you're interested in as you are conlanging, and that will be helpful to continue learning. So the north wind and the sun were disputing which was stronger when a traveler came along wrapped in a warm cloak. So this, okay, we need to have some way to introduce temporal phrases. Oh, there could have been a lot of ways that I could do an interesting noun class system for dragons, gender system or noun class system, whichever way you use it. but but we rolled that it didn't have noun classes, so we ended up not doing anything with that. Um, I just a roll of dice. Okay, lots of work while you get to working. Um, so I don't know. We may not get through this first um, first sentence in this stream. So I may be doing the rest of it on my own, or maybe we could continue it on the next stream. We can think about that. When a traveler came along wrapped in a warm cloak. So right away, this is going to be a classic example of the whatever verb I go with for the traveler came. That's going to have a perfective aspect, because this is going to be the classic example of a perfective event interrupts an imperfective process, right? Um, yeah. Maybe I'll leave it and continue in the next stream. We can work translation a little bit. I want to give a little time to get the votes in for the writing system poll before I start on writing. So, wind catcher. It's an idea. I think we need to decide what's the word for travel, and then what the word for traveler. We can come up with an agentive suffix for that. Um, the main thing I'm thinking about is how to do this structure. This structure where we have a main clause and then a temporal clause. We do have so subordinate clauses. We had a thing of simultaneous action. So we have to have this suffix on the verb. Okay. Okay, so I did actually do this with subordinate clauses. Okay. When he saw me, he flew away. So here it is. This. So okay. So what we need here, this is going to have the nya suffix. Nyapabenya. Nyapabenya. Okay. Nyapabenya. And then I guess we just need to have this sentence: a traveler came along wrapped in a warm cloak. That's an interesting idea. What do dragons call adventurers? I think that there is going to be still a distinction. Yeah. Oh, gloss it in English? I mean, I still need to figure out like what postpositions and stuff to use. Spiky dinner. Spiky meat. Yeah. Depends on what a kind of dragon too. And the attitude of the adventurers. Badaf is already a derogatory term. So badaf, which means meat, can also already be used as a derogatory term for humanoids. So that's something to deal with. So So a traveler came along wrapped in a warm cloak. So we have the even this piece of the sentence is complex because we've got two verbs in the English, but I don't think we're gonna have the two verbs here. Um, I think instead of a traveler, they're going to just call it a humanoid. So the word for humanoid is new beu beu new bear new bear new bear, which literally means biped. Um, and so that's going to be traveler. Okay, well, we could do some glossing. Cloak, so it'd be cloak in probably. Perche. Let me look at my chart. My chart of post positions and she. Okay, but it also means into, so that's a little bit weird. But I don't think. So could be an elf or a kangaroo. Yes, I think I mentioned somewhere that could be confused with kangaroos. I I do have to think about like if we're going to go with biped for humanoids, then what's the word for giants? Because giants are also bipeds. And I thought about this a while because dragons might have more in common with giants than with humanoids, but at the same time, humanoids are going to be much more common. So I think humanoids is the base. You could maybe add an augmentative for giant, or you could have an entirely different root for giant. That's the thing. I decided to make a D&D language at a very bad time just because of like the attitudes towards D&D now, but also it means I have to consider all of the creatures that exist for Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder, those worlds. Giants could be seen as competition though. Yeah. But they are not like the same family of creatures as dragons. They're not going to be in the category of Ga. This for dragons and serpents. But yeah, I think Shay is just the best one to go with. Because nothing else really fits for. He's in a cloak. So I have to find a word for cloak. Um, and then, so it's going to have to be, yeah, so it's going to be third person. Third person. Uh, I would say it's with the directional pem. So the ventive directional. Ventive walk. Um, and then perfective. So what we need is the word for cloak and a verb meaning to walk. Pasta. Do different races originate in different regions? Yes, Topher has it right. That's going to be part of your campaign world. I am intentionally making this language so that anybody can use it. Any GM can use it, or if your GM agrees, you as a player can bring in the spell incantations and use them. Now, part of the complexity of language and its relationship to culture means that I can't make it entirely neutral. Like there's a word for magnetic pole that implies that your world has a magnetic field. Maybe you're a very strange GM and you're on a disc world that has no magnetic field. Well, I guess you'd have to recontextualize it somehow. But I'm trying to keep it moderately neutral to different worlds. Where I will go further into like fun world building directions as I build like branches off of this, like daughter languages and the sister language Serpentine, because that way there I can be freer and not be like expecting to fit it into everybody's world. Um, so, um, so I think it's 5:30. I think we're going to leave it there. So I'm going to do a highlight of this so that we know where we left off. And yeah, let's leave off and let's go do some more translation next week. We'll just start right here, right where we left off. And the thing that we now this is not the English word she. This is the Draconic word she. So let's um, highlight the roots that we need in order to finish off this sentence. We need a word for cloak and a word for walk. Cloak is going to be some kind of like false skin or something, because I think clothing in general. Yeah, clothing. Higi. Clothing is the same as feathers or hair or fur or wool. Um, so we probably will riff on that for the word for cloak, but that we can come back to later. Right now, I'm going to go and I'm going to make sure my daughters are ready and eat dinner and get everybody to bed. But thank you all for watching. Uh, yeah. And and yeah, it's it's yeah, it's so higi is feather, hair, fur, wool, clothing. It's just generally a word for things that are on your food that you don't want to actually that you don't like actually swallowing. Maybe the things that come back up in a pellet. Could dragons do pellets? Like owls? Anyway, or hairballs? Anyway, thank you all for watching and happy conlanging. We'll do some more translation next week. In the stream.